They say you shouldn't fear the car, but you should respect it. But what happens when a car earns a reputation so dangerous that even the most skilled drivers are afraid to push it to its limits? Let's find out why the Porsche Carrera GT is known as the most dangerous road car ever. The year was 2004, and Porsche was about to redefine the supercar landscape. They had just released Project 980, a project that would soon be better known to the world as the Carrera GT. It was a car that captivated enthusiasts and critics alike, not just because of its jaw-dropping design or the heart-pounding sound of its engine, but because of what lay beneath the surface. Underneath its sleek exterior and cutting-edge technology was a car that was as unforgiving as it was beautiful. The Carrera GT wasn't just another high-performance vehicle. It was the product of years of meticulous engineering, born from Porsche's deep-rooted racing heritage. The story of this car actually begins in the early 1990s, when Porsche was dominating the motorsport world. They were kings of endurance racing, particularly at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, where they had racked up more victories than any other manufacturer. But as the racing world began to evolve, so too did the rules. These changes meant Porsche needed a new engine to stay competitive, and what they came up with was nothing short of revolutionary. Porsche initially set their sights on a V12 engine for Formula One, but it didn't quite meet their expectations. So they went back to the drawing board and came up with something even better, a V10 engine that would later become the beating heart of the Carrera GT. This engine was capable of producing a spine-tingling 612 horsepower with a red line at 8,400 revolutions per minute. It was an engine designed for the racetrack, but fate would have it that this powerhouse would end up in a road car. By the late 1990s, the supercar world was heating up. McLaren had their legendary F1, Ferrari was working on the Enzo, and even Audi was getting in on the action with the R8. Porsche, never one to be outdone, decided it was time to bring their V10 creation to the streets. The Carrera GT was initially revealed as a concept car at the 2000 Paris Motor Show, where it was meant to drum up excitement for Porsche's new SUV, the Cayenne. But the reaction to the Carrera GT was overwhelming. People wanted this car, and they wanted it badly. Porsche had no choice but to put it into production. When the Carrera GT finally hit the market in 2004, it was a car like no other. It featured cutting-edge technology, such as a carbon fiber monocoque chassis, which was a first for a production car. This made the Carrera GT incredibly light, but also incredibly rigid. It had a manually operated rear spoiler, a 6-speed manual gearbox, and an aerodynamic design that seemed to scream speed even when standing still. But the real star of the show was the engine. The 5.7-liter V10 wasn't just powerful. It produced a sound that was pure automotive symphony. From the moment you fired it up, you knew you were in for a ride like no other. But the Carrera GT was not a car for the faint of heart. It was a machine that demanded respect, and if you didn't give it what it deserved, it could and would punish you. Porsche's very own test driver, the legendary Walter Röhrl, famously said that the Carrera GT was the first car he had ever driven that genuinely scared him. That's coming from a man who has driven some of the most fearsome racing machines ever built. But it wasn't just Röhrl who found the Carrera GT terrifying. Even professional drivers like Jay Leno and the Stig, who are known for their skill and fearlessness, had close calls behind the wheel of this beast. The Carrera GT had a reputation for being unforgiving, particularly at the limit. Its handling was razor sharp, but it was also extremely unpredictable. The car's mid-engine layout, combined with its lack of modern electronic driver aids like traction control and stability control, made it a handful even for the most experienced drivers. It was a car that required absolute concentration, precision, and respect. If you made a mistake, the Carrera GT would not hesitate to bite back. One of the reasons the Carrera GT was so challenging to drive was its clutch. Porsche used a small, lightweight ceramic clutch that was designed for racing. This allowed the engine to be mounted lower in the chassis, giving the car a lower center of gravity and improving handling. However, the clutch was notoriously tricky to operate. It was either on or off with no middle ground. This made launching the car from a standstill a delicate balancing act. Get it wrong and you could easily stall the engine, or worse, launch the car into something solid. The Carrera GT's suspension was another area where Porsche prioritized performance over comfort. The car featured pushrod suspension, similar to what you'd find on a Formula One car. This setup was perfect for the racetrack, where it allowed the car to corner flat and fast, but on public roads, it was a different story. The suspension was so stiff that even small bumps in the road could send shockwaves through the chassis. It was not uncommon for drivers to lose fillings after a spirited drive in the Carrera GT. And then there were the brakes. The Carrera GT was equipped with massive carbon ceramic brakes, which provided incredible stopping power. However, they also required a lot of heat to work properly. On a cold day or during gentle driving, the brakes could feel numb and unresponsive. But once they were up to temperature, they would bite hard and fast. This meant that braking in the Carrera GT was an exercise in precision. Too much pressure, and you could lock up the wheels and lose control. Too little, and you wouldn't stop in time. The lack of electronic driver aids in the Carrera GT was both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it made the driving experience pure and unfiltered. There was no traction control to save you if you got it wrong, no stability control to keep you pointed in the right direction. It was just you, the car, and the road. This made the Carrera GT an incredibly rewarding car to drive, but it also made it dangerous. One small mistake could have catastrophic consequences, as many owners found out the hard way. Perhaps the most tragic example of the Carrera GT's lethal potential was the accident that claimed the lives of actor Paul Walker and his friend Roger Rodas in 2013. The car they were in lost control at high speed and crashed into a tree, bursting into flames. The accident was a stark reminder of just how dangerous the Carrera GT could be. It was a car that, in the wrong hands, could be deadly. But was the Carrera GT really a dangerous car, or was it simply misunderstood? Porsche never intended the Carrera GT to be an easy car to drive. It was designed to be a pure driver's car, one that rewarded skill and punished mistakes. In that sense, it was no more dangerous than any other high-performance vehicle. The problem was that the Carrera GT was so fast, so capable, that it was easy to forget just how close to the edge you were. It was a car that lulled you into a false sense of security, and by the time you realized you were in trouble, it was often too late. The Carrera GT's legacy is a complicated one. On one hand, it is widely regarded as one of the greatest supercars of all time. It is a car that pushed the boundaries of what was possible and set a new standard for performance. But on the other hand, it is a car that has claimed more than its fair share of lives. It is a car that, for all its beauty and brilliance, is also a reminder of the dangers that come with pushing the limits. In the end, the Porsche Carrera GT is a car that demands respect. It is not a car to be taken lightly, and it is not a car for the inexperienced. But for those who are brave enough to tame it, the rewards are immense. The Carrera GT offers a driving experience that is unmatched, a connection between man and machine that is as exhilarating as it is terrifying. It is a car that, despite its flaws, remains one of the most iconic and revered supercars ever built. So, is the Porsche Carrera GT the most dangerous road car ever? Perhaps. But it is also one of the most thrilling, the most engaging, and the most rewarding cars you will ever drive. It is a car that, like all great machines, has the power to inspire, to excite, and yes, to scare. And in a world where so many cars are becoming sanitized and soulless, the Carrera GT stands out as a reminder of what driving is really all about: passion, precision, and a healthy dose of fear. If you ever get the chance to drive a Carrera GT, do so with caution. Respect it, and it will reward you, but take it for granted, as it might just be the last car you ever drive.